From Del Rio, Texas, home of Lake Amistad, your host, Rob Wade. This guy who dives. This episode of This Guy Who Dives recorded live Sunday, 28 May, 2017. Episode 174. Happy Memorial Day 2017. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of This Guy Who Dives, and I am your host, Rob Wade, and sorry for the really late delay. Hardware problems abound today. As I started to spin everything up and I was doing a quick camera check to all the cameras, discovered that the shot that you see right now, our wide shot camera, was not working. It wasn't recognized. I plugged it into different USB ports, wasn't showing up, it wasn't registering it. Real quick, I plugged it into our server computer to see if it worked, and it lit up, so it accepted a signal there. So, again, another Windows 10 failure, discovering some issue with the USB support. So, I started wrestling with that, and so it just so happened I have an old camera that I normally use for connecting to my tablet. So I can have a camera that I can actually aim elsewhere if I'm doing something remotely on the tablet. And it's not nearly as high resolution as you can tell. Not nearly as good quality, but it works for now, so I can get the shot in. So again, apologize for that, but you know, the nerd in me just won't let something go. It's kind of like Admiral Kirk, you know, I don't like to lose. So yeah, very frustrating. Okay, we got weird issues going on with the tablet now. So I don't know how long we'll have the show going tonight because we've got storms just swirling all over the place. We had really bad lightning going on here just a little bit ago. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to have to kill it all together, but it kind of broke up. But I still hear thunder. I can't tell if it's getting closer or further away. Since I was dealing with hardware issues, didn't really have time to check the weather. I probably could do that while I'm chatting with you folks here. But let me go ahead and jump right into our normal segments here, expand things. You know, it's tough when you get older and you have to wear glasses to read, because I wear contacts, which I dive with them. Yes, I do dive with them. Of course, I have to just be careful not to blink them out. Make sure they're, they're well lubricated before I get in the water. Because actually, salt water, especially, but also even freshwater lakes, that water doesn't have the right viscosity as your tears do or artificial tears have. So literally, they kind of become, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily abrasive, but if you get water in your eyes and you're wearing contacts, you could actually create enough friction that they can be blinked out. They'll feel like they're just really rubbing the insides of your eyelids. So you have to be really careful if you dive with contacts. But to me, it's easier than trying to get special masks that have prescription lenses in them, or you getting those inserts. You can some places you can order those inserts where they just attach to the inside of your mask. So anyway. So the problem is that corrects for my nearsightedness because I can't see at distance. I'm legally blind when it comes to that. But at my age now, that's created a focus issue up close, so I have to wear reading glasses. So I'm stuck either way. I either wear glasses to see distance or I wear glasses to read. If I take my contacts out, I can read up close with no problems. I have no problems focusing. It's just the contacts now create an issue with my eyes reading up close. So anyway, happy Memorial Day, everybody. Well, actually, it's tomorrow. So hope you if you go to church, I hope you had a good service at church this morning, and we did. Had a great time. Tara and I actually got to lead praise and worship at our new church for the last 3 weeks because the regular praise and worship leader is taking a family vacay. So, and he's working his way back, and so safe travels for them coming back. And so tomorrow, I know a lot of folks tend to use that as, and we do. I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I know a lot of folks have a tendency to use Memorial Day as just a picnic and all that fun stuff. Although if the weather's supposed to be as nasty tomorrow, so there may not be a lot of that going on in Del Rio tomorrow. Although we will have a big event in town, but just remember why this is a holiday. It's important to remember. It's important to remember the folks that in your family, in your life, in your family's history, that gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we have in this country. I mean, say what you will about the challenges that we have, the politics that we have right now in this country. But the bottom line is this is still the best nation in the world. When you take it all together, you take it holistically, this is still the best nation in the world. And so, and there are a lot of folks that are in the military right now that are in various places around the world, making sure that we continue to have the opportunity to exercise these freedoms. My wife and I are both veterans. We both served in the United States Air Force proudly. Now we both serve civil service for the Air Force. So we're still doing our part to make sure that our folks out on the front line have everything they need to do the job they're called to do. So remember those folks, remember those who gave their lives, and take a moment to just maybe have a moment of silence or just talk about it a little bit. You have the freedom. They purchased the freedom for us to have the time off and do the things, the relaxation, the games, and whatever you do for your Memorial Day. So make sure you remember why we do this. Okay. Movie reviews, of course. As I've said before, this year's kind of sparse as far as movie opportunities, as far as the kinds of movies that we're interested in. So the last movie we saw and reviewed was Alien Covenant. Gave it a pretty good score. Nothing going on this week. I tell you, we saw the previous Pirates of the Caribbean. Carrots of the Caribbean. Nice. We saw the previous Pirates of the Caribbean, and they were cute movies and all. Johnny Depp, of course, is his own typical character in those movies, but the latest one just didn't really spark our interest. We kind of were looking at, hey, that movie is being released this weekend, and both of us just kind of looked at each other and, well. And evidently it did very well in the box office, 46 million, I think, for the Memorial Day weekend. Competing against it was, and I knew it was going to be a train wreck, but it absolutely, by all accounts, bombed, was the Baywatch movie. Now, generally speaking, we like seeing Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, in movies, generally speaking. But this one absolutely was just going to be another one of those movies that somebody decided, oh, here's a 70s or 80s show that we want to lampoon. we'll mix a little bit of drama in there, but basically we're making fun of it. And that's essentially what they did. It didn't take the original series, although I never really watched it, didn't take the series for the drama that it intended to be. And they didn't, instead of thinking, okay, we can actually take this up a notch and make it even more dramatic than the original was, they decided let's just make fun of it. I was a fan of Miami Vice when it was on TV. I think just about everybody my age was. And when they did the Miami Vice movie, thankfully, they actually took it up a notch in the drama department. So I was impressed that they went that direction. But then, when I saw what they were doing with Baywatch, I knew they were going to do this. It looked like it was going to be the same thing that they did with Starsky and Hutch and some of the others, and 21 Jump Street. I mean, just make it all a bunch of idiots. Okay, great. So, but as expected, I kind of take a little bit of smug satisfaction that it bombed. Because I just hate it when they do that to shows. If you're going to reboot something, which I'm not a fan of, generally speaking anyway, but if you're going to reboot it, do a better job. Rather than say, oh, this was very campy in its time, say, okay, now if we were to make that series today, how could we really do it upright? But no, they didn't do that. They decided to get stupid with it. But what we did see, we did do the pay-per-view thing, because we didn't get to see it when it came out at the theaters, was The Space Between Us. Now, it stars the kid, forgive me for not having his name, it stars the kid who was in Ender's Game, which was a good movie. The Space Between Us was, I liked the premise, if of course it was less than believable. Basic premise, some astronauts are going to be the first ones to go actually live for, I guess, some years on Mars. And it's a joint venture with NASA and a Steve Jobs, oh, golly, why am I drawing a blank? The guy that owns SpaceX, or runs SpaceX, that kind of a guy. Somebody has got tons of money to invest in other things other than his core stuff that he's noted for, and he's been wanting to do this. It's played by Gary Oldman, very well, by the way. And then the lead, the only female in the group, which I thought was like, it really, turns out she got pregnant just before they took off, and of course they start on their journey, which is like a 9-month journey, or 7-month journey, something like that. And she realizes she's pregnant and gets, she goes through all the motions, the morning sickness and all that fun stuff, and gives birth on Mars and then dies. We don't ever find out exactly why she died. I guess they felt that wasn't important to include in the storyline, but so she dies in childbirth, and all the scientists there that were part of the team and other teams that come along that expand the settlement basically raise the kid, and they go through some pretty interesting soul searching as to whether or not they should tell the world that, oh, guess what, our lead astronaut on this trip was allowed to go while pregnant and died. They gave a cover story that she died because of a malfunction or pressure suit or something. And so anyway, then there's a situation where the politics, the optics of it, they have to bring him to Earth. Turns out he can't handle, even though they do some operations to strengthen his bone structure, etc., because he was born and raised, to the age of 16 in a much lower gravity environment, that he has an enlarged heart, and so they have to, it's a race against time. So they deal with that, and he's had this girl that he's been pen paling with, video chatting with, I guess, over the internet via space connection, etc. and so he tracks her down. He wants to track down his father, and I won't tell you the twist in case you haven't seen the movie, but I really liked the movie. I liked the ending. It left you partially dissatisfied. I was like, really? Couldn't they? But then the way they set things up, you know what's going to happen next, and it's a satisfying ending. So I've got to say it was well done. Because I'm the first one to complain about a movie where it's fiction. You can write the story however you want to. So why don't you write it with a good ending? I don't understand. Unless you're trying to create a cliffhanger for a sequel. Okay, I get the purpose of that. But if you are writing a beginning to end story, I am frustrated by movies that intentionally have a sad ending. I don't get that. I would never write a movie or a play with a sad ending. Never. It just wouldn't happen. Because there's nothing satisfying about that. You feel like you eat this big meal and then you just had to go into the bathroom and purge it. That's kind of what it feels like. So I would give this movie, The Space Between Us, I would give it 8.5. Visuals were great. The Martian vistas were beautiful. Not as gorgeous as you got to see in John Carter, which I still think was an underrated movie. I love the movie. I love the score. Beautifully done. But anyway, but the one thing I had, because I'm a nerd, I'm a big fan of space stuff. I'm obviously not a physicist, although when I was a real little kid, when my parents asked me what I wanted to be, I said an aerospace physicist. And so anyway, one of the issues I had took issue with was the whole pen pal thing and any of the communication that they had with Earth. Because, okay, I don't care how far in the future this is, radio's still radio. It travels at the speed of light, and it takes, you know what, let me look this up. Because it shouldn't have been that fast. How fast, or better yet, how much time for radio signal to reach Mars. Okay, depending on the orbits, because obviously if in our orbital plane, if Mars is in line with us, it's going to be shorter. If they are virtually on the other side of the sun from us, because their orbit is different than ours, looks like minimum of 4 minutes, maximum of 24 minutes. So the communication you saw in the movie, it was like we're talking to each other across the United States. It was that fast. I'm like, there's no way. There's minutes they have to wait. If you think, I got Ronan whining about something. If you think it's annoying to wait the pauses that we hear when people are doing an interview with somebody in another country, and there's this really uncomfortable, they ask a question, and then you see yes, that's right, Paul. You see the response is like this delay because it's bouncing up to satellite and then down across to another country. So that's still a delay, just hitting something that's in orbit back down. So basically twice the altitude of orbit, because it has to go up and then back down. So it was frustrating me because I was like, no, there's no way they're talking that quickly to each other. So because there's a lot of conversation that were going just as text, pen messages. between them while the girl was in school and he was on Mars. I'm like, there's no way it's going to be that quick. But so anyway, that was a little bit frustrating. But outside of that, it was really enjoyable. It was a really enjoyable movie. So, all right. So that's our movie review. If you haven't seen it, Ronan wants down for something. Probably wants food, which you're not getting, buddy. He's getting tangled in my headphones. Go outside. So anyway, so if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It is well worth watching, and the visuals are great. Let's see. Don't have really much in the way of tech news of late, which is fine. And like I said, because I'm not sure what these storms are doing, I'm gonna keep the episode pretty short tonight. Again, reminder. Patty's Women's Dive Day is 15th of July, so hit patty.com or look for hashtag PattyWomen on Twitter, and you can see what kind of opportunities you might see out there. So went on a dive yesterday with a couple of guys, somebody that was a former student, and also somebody who was in from Amarillo. He had just gotten certified. And he's planning a trip to Australia. I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous. So he's planning a trip to Australia, and see, he wanted to get at least a couple more dives in. So he took the opportunity, since he was in the area, to meet up with us and get in the water. So we had a great time, but for me, even just getting in the water is fun for me. I enjoy it. So I was looking forward to it, even though I anticipated the visibility was going to be horrible because we just had so much rain and wind lately. And I was anticipating still being cold. So we got down to the dock and we stuck our feet in the water. And I was like, yeah, I'll still be wearing my 5 mil full. So as it turns out, the water temps, we kept it shallow because they weren't comfortable going any deeper. Plus, it was later on in the day, and we already were seeing some clouds building up for a storm. So we decided to keep it shallow so we could see. Even though I always carry my light with me, we were all three running cameras. And matter of fact, I'll show you some video here in a minute. Yeah, it was chilly. After about 50 minutes, I was getting too chilled. It was 72, and you could feel it start to drop if you got any deeper than that. So I would estimate, based on what I started to feel, the temperature drop, that probably any deeper than that, the temps were still only about 68 to 70 degrees. So at 72, a 5 mil full is pretty comfortable. Now, one of the guys was wearing a 3 mil full, and he said he was okay. So I guess it's just a difference between, temperatures that people are comfortable with. So let me go ahead and see if I can pull up the video. There we go. So you can see my little BC light shining out there. And can you hear that? Sounds like a frog croaking. Those are fish. When it starts to get towards sunset, that is the sound they make. And you can hear a boat cruising by. There were a lot of boats hanging just outside the buoy line for the cove. There's Hans. So you can see visibility was not great. At the best, it was maybe 10 feet. But most of the time it was closer to 5. We came across one little rock outcropping that had a really like a mini cave in it. It was but a really skinny opening. I thought, you know what, that's a perfect place for a catfish. And sure enough, I shined my light in there. You can see the eyes glowing from this big catfish. So I motioned to Hans because he had another GoPro camera. We were kind of being stalked by this one fish. Kept coming around us. Yeah, not a whole heck of a lot to view out there, that's for sure. At least the direction we went. The direction we went, if you are looking at the docks from the shore, we went off to the right. All right, so that's what we had to deal with, and like I said, water temps about 72 right there. So didn't take that long to get chilled. So, but it was still a good dive. I enjoyed myself. Now, having one of the folks who was just recently certified. Some of the challenges kind of ran into. I won't go into a lot of detail except to say it reinforces to me why I tell my students the certification shows it basically allows you to learn the skill sets necessary to deal with the kinds of issues that you might run into when you're diving. It's all about problem solving. but it's also to get you used to being in that environment because it is foreign to us. The bottom line is it's water. We don't have gills. We are mammals. We breathe air at the surface. And so if we're going to go underwater for any length of time, we have to bring our air with us. Our eyes are not designed to be able to focus properly in a fluid environment. We need a layer of air in front of our eyes in order for them to focus properly. Okay? So again, these are devices, mechanisms that smart people have developed over time to mitigate the challenges that would otherwise prevent us from enjoying an underwater environment. So that's why it's important to get comfortable in the water, get comfortable with the gear, and dive in as many kinds of situations as you can. And unless you own your own gear, you need to dive with other companies, dive operations, dive with their gear. Because the bottom line is, I have a bug crawling across the camera there. The bottom line is, I sure do. The bottom line is, you may have learned wearing a certain type of equipment, but when you go somewhere else, unless you're bringing your own gear with you, you're going to experience diving in a new location, in a new situation and environment, wearing gear that you've never worn before. Now, while they all function similarly, there are going to be certain nuances. The way a jacket type BC fits and feels to you compared to a harness with a back plate, a back plate and a back bladder type, a backfill. Different types of masks, different types of fins, a different type of wetsuit. The newly certified diver was wearing a really nice wetsuit. It was a Scuba Pro 6.5. Really nice suit. And he got it for a steal. But this was his first time wearing it. And as it turns out, the way the neck comes up to allow, I guess, for a better seal for overlapping when you wear a hood, the challenge he ran into was that it was cutting him off, and he felt very, very uncomfortable. And it just so happens, my wife, Tara, ran into the same thing when we bought her a full wetsuit, is the neck opening really felt like it was cutting her off, and it gave her a more claustrophobic feel. So those are designed as... those neck pieces are typically additional material. And so in my wife's case, we literally just cut a little V in the neck piece so that she had that free movement and it wouldn't get in her way, and that was fine for her. So I made the same offer to him. I said, it's your suit, you do what you want. I said, if you intend to wear a hood with it, you'll have to make sure that it's one that the neck is such that it has a little bit of a cowling with it, because if we cut away material to give you freer neck room there, you're going to need to compensate for that when you do wear a hood. So he was fine with that. So I got my trusty dive shears and we cut that extra piece sticking up, and he was much better off. Those are the kind of adjustments that you can make if you need to your suit to make it comfortable. And you'll see the same kinds of extensions, if you will, around the wrists and the ankles. Many times you'll find that the actual main neoprene part that zips up at the wrist and the ankles has an inner part that also extends much lower than the edge of the outer part. And so that's meant to allow you to overlap, let's say, your boots. So your boots would cover that inner material, and then the outer shell of the wetsuit would then zip over the boots. So you get a nice little interlocking bit of material. But if you find that there's so much extra material on the inner layer, if you will, you can trim some of that back so it feels more comfortable, and you won't end up having to roll it up, because that's not a good way to do it either. You don't want to roll it up. So just realize you can cut that material off. It's not gonna damage the suit at all. It's if you were to cut the outer part, that could be a problem. But again, that's just that's an adjustment that you can make to your own suit. Now, you don't have that opportunity if you're renting that from somebody. I mean, it's that simple. They're typically not going to let you cut into their suits if you're renting a wetsuit from someplace. But if you have your own, you can make whatever mods that you feel necessary. And you can always look online and see some good examples of what people have done to mitigate some challenges with certain types of wetsuits. So, all right, we're running down close to the end here. Just a heads up. June has a few more movies in it compared to May that we're interested in. Some of these may or may not be interesting to you. Of course, Wonder Woman, because Ben Affleck is not in it. I think possibly World War Z 2 may have been moved, because even though it was originally slated for the 9th of June, I haven't seen any trailers for it, and I need to go online and check and see where it moved to. Of course, The Mummy, a complete reboot retelling of the story, is coming out on the 9th. And then The Recall, Wesley Snipes is back in the movies. He's in another science fiction movie. It looks like a kind of an alien invasion kind of thing. On the 16th, and then for you divers out there, this one should be kind of interesting. 47 meters down. I think I talked about this last week, or maybe the episode before. That's on the 16th as well. I've seen the trailer, but I finally saw the trailer on TV. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be interested to see what they cheated on, because of the gear they appear to be wearing. So, but it's an interesting premise. I think this, in a way, it'll probably be this movie, 47 Meters Down, may be a movie that's kind of like Open Water, in that there's some unrealistic things in there, but generally it's a good teachable moment movie. Open Water is good to show you some things not to do, some things to prepare yourself and prevent the kind of situation that created the story of Open Water. One of the things I saw in the trailer that I'm like, really? There's no way they'd be like. It looks like the what's suspending the cage that these two female divers are in to experience sharks is a rope. I'm like, really? I'm pretty sure that they'd be using a steel cable. So I need to look at the trailer again to see if that's in fact what they used, but it sure looked like it was a rope that broke. I'm like, that's not gonna be the case. So anyway, that opens 47 Meters Down, opens on the 16th. And then Transformers: The Last Night is on the 23rd. So this will be a pretty decent month for movies, although I'm wondering how much movie going I'll get to see, because we're getting ready to start rehearsals for our summer musical. So, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and hit the administrivia. So, we're getting into the warmer weather finally. The rest of the dive classes for this year, this is just the basic open water class. I can do the advanced courses as I have demand. So anyway, the basic class, June 22nd through the 25th, July 27th through the 30th, August 24th through the 27th, September 28th through October 1st. And of course, next weekend are the auditions for Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, June 4th and 5th. So if you're in town looking to be part of that show, go down to the Firehouse on Sunday at 1 o'clock. I think they've got it scheduled for on the 4th. or Saturday or Monday at 7 at the firehouse as well. And of course, we always do a plug for a Pet's Wish. I think they were in San Antonio this weekend to have set up a adoption event. So they brought a number of the animals that they've rescued with them to San Antonio for an event. But they're always needing help. So if you can find in your heart to donate some money to help defray the costs, the huge costs that they have for pet foods, for medicines, for the sicker animals that are being treated, and just generally helping keep the lights on, please look them up on Facebook or their website, A Pet's Wish. They could really use your help. And, of course, if you want to keep tabs with what's going on with the dive community here, you can visit our website at delriodiveclub.com or check out what the latest things that's happening, spur of the moment, typically. Visit our Facebook page, which you're probably, if you're watching the show live, you are already there because we're broadcasting this on Facebook Live. Just look for Del Rio Dive Club. If you want to send us a message, you can just contact us via Skype. Just look for TGWD. And then, of course, if you'd like to send me an email, just send it to robert.wade@cetifox.net. And you can follow me on Twitter. Oops, all the lights flicker. I think the storm is approaching. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter. Just look for Robert CFP, which is Ceti Fox Productions. And I'll be sure to follow you. So since we do have auditions next Sunday, even though those are in the afternoon, hopefully that's not going to impact my ability to prepare for the show. But I'll tweet out if and send a message over Facebook if it looks like audition work, prep, post-audition work eats into my ability to get the show ready. So anyway, hopefully all things, if everything goes well, we will be back next Sunday evening, same bat time, same bat channel, with another episode of This Guy Who Dives. We'll see ya.